Hello, everybody. We're just going to get started very, very shortly, but thank you to those people who I know are already here waiting for us to get on. Really appreciate you joining us today. Okay, I think we're going to get cracking then. So yes, thank you so much for joining us for what promises to be a fantastic discussion on making AI productivity gains stick. And this is a lead dev online panel discussion created in partnership with GitKraken. The discussion today is going to last roughly 45 minutes, after which both myself and the panelists are going to head over to the lead dev Slack to answer some of your questions in the panel Q&A channel. And to get there, if you're not familiar already, you can go to theleaddeveloper.slack.com and either sign in or join up. You don't have to hold on to your questions till afterwards, though. Please feel free to submit any that might come up during the course of the conversation through the Q&A feature on Zoom. If I can bring them in, hopefully I will try to do my best to do so. Otherwise, we'll hopefully get to a couple at the end if we've got time. And if not, we'll put everything over to Slack for you. But before we get started, I will do a very quick introduction. My name is Sally Late. I will be your host today. My pronouns are she and her. I work as a fractional technology leader and advisor, and I'm based in the east of England in the UK. But as I've said, the discussion today is all about making AI productivity gains stick. So I imagine everybody on the panel or everybody watching here today has probably seen some different benefits in the course of their work and their life, but making sure that these gains really hold up as AI becomes more of a permanent part of how teams work can be another matter. So what we're going to be talking about today is discussing the different kind of gains that we can get, that our panelists have experienced in the course of their work, how we can measure these, how we can, most importantly, get them to stick as part of our everyday work. So here to share their experiences, their stories, I'm joined today by some incredible panelists, and I'm going to let them all introduce themselves very shortly in alphabetical order because I love a bit of structure. So AB, will be starting with you. Could you tell us a bit about you, please, the context of your work with AI, and why you're interested in this topic?
Hi all, my name is AB. I'm currently the CTO at Metrofox, and as a small team, we function and shape like a much bigger one now, and that's because AI has become an integral part of our workflow. And so in so many ways, I get to see the gains as well as the pains, and I'm excited to speak about them all today. Thank you.
Very excited to have you here. Thank you. And Anastasia, over to you, please.
Thanks, Sally. Great here to be with everyone. Anastasia, I'm VP Product Engineering at GitKraken. Many of you may know us through tools such as GitKraken Desktop or GitLab, a plugin in VS Code. But over the last 18 months, we've been deeply investigating and trying to understand how AI is impacting developer workflows and how we can help developers and dev leaders through this. So into this discussion, I'm bringing my personal experience as I'm running engineering team, and we are going through the same transformation, as well as inputs from lots of dev leaders that we were talking to that, again, like going through the same and wrestling to the same pain points as you are. Happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm really excited to hear some of those data points, some of those anecdotes that I'm sure you can bring. And Maxime, over to you as well, please.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks, Sally. I'm Maxime Najim. I'm a distinguished engineer at Target, and I've spent about 2 decades working in the tech industry across large tech organizations. Like many of you, I've been using AI in my day-to-day engineering work. In my recent article I wrote for LeadDev, I wrote about how AI is changing my work as a Stat Plus engineer, especially how it can reduce the time it takes to understand unfamiliar systems. So to me, it's clear that AI can help us move faster, but I think that the deeper question is, can AI help organizations make better, safer changes faster? And what I found is that answer depends on a few things, which I'm excited to discuss today. But what I will say now is, like, AI raises the ceiling on what engineers are able to do. But for those gains to last, we have to kind of raise the importance of the fundamentals even more. So like good architecture, good guardrails, keeping the craft of software development at the center while using these tools, to do what they truly help us with.
Well, you're all dropping some really nice sort of clickbaity little tidbits here already. So that's very exciting. And thank you all so much for giving your time today to chat to me and to chat to everybody else out there as well watching. But we're going to start by taking this idea of gains. So again, I'd love to kind of go around the virtual room, get everybody's perspective to get us started, because I know that everybody's kind of coming at this from a slightly different angle. So AB, if you could kick us off again, what kind of gains have you personally experienced AI bringing to your work or to the environment that you've been in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can speak to two gains in particular, and the first one being increased test coverage. Testing used to be this thing that, although very important, required a lot of time and investment and did feel like manual labor. So you would find that developers in most cases did the barest minimum. However, now with AI being able to translate specs into test cases, we're seeing higher test coverage. We're seeing PRs with more test cases, more scenarios being tested, and that's giving us more stability and more confidence when we ship, because we know that if something were to go wrong, we would know ahead of time. The second one is increased delivery speed. Right now, we're seeing that what we as engineers need to lock in most times is the architectural design and those decisions. And once we have that down, AI can then go and do the code implementation. Before now, a feature could take about 3 to 4 days after you have locked in the architectural design. But now, once you do that, AI can get that done in less than a day. And that same developer can then work on 3 other work streams at the same time, thereby having more gains in terms of speed.
And is that kind of echoing what you've been seeing as well, Anastasia, or do you have any other kind of like different viewpoints to add into the mix?
Absolutely similar kind of insights. I'm looking also at the gains from maybe these 3 pillars. The first one is around adoption, and are we doing the cultural change? And initially, it could be like very like AI assisted, like very minor adoption, and then going to AI first kind of flow. Then, if you have this leading indicator of people adopting AI, do we see that our system is changing, such as we have better test coverage, such as if we have better velocity, if we release more frequently? So this is second pillar. But what we are all marching towards is what's the impact to the business? Are we able to deliver value to the customers more? So I see the gains in all of those areas, and they're also super interdependent. In our case, if you talk about impact, then when we really leaned into AI first type of model, we see just in 3 months, 2.3 times before improvements in velocity, and around 98% of our code changes are AI assisted. But it wasn't a journey that just we did overnight. There was a journey with initially developers resisting, then going through experimentation, adoption, and then scaling and optimizing. And of course, something that helped is changing the cultures, releases in the models with Opus. Like I think the whole world for everyone has changed with GPT 5.1. So we really saw major changes. But yeah, so see similar kind of observations as Abby.
And Maxime, I know that you really care about the cultural side that Anastasia mentioned. You really care about the adoption side. But thinking about the gains specifically, how has that kind of affected your work? What sort of things have you been seeing?
Yeah, I have about like 3 of them that I think are major gains that I've gotten. So one is kind of just the ramp up time. For example, if I use AI agents to kind of explore a domain or system I don't know well, so I have an AI agent read the documentation, compare that to the code, and kind of help me understand how a system is structured. That kind of like onboarding work usually takes a lot of time. And so AI can help me kind of compress that time and kind of reach a first useful understanding. From there, I take that initial understanding and validate it with the engineers who actually own those systems. And I'm a staff plus engineer, so I have to create a lot of documentation and lead a lot of conversations. So I've also been seeing a real gain in I call the blank page part of my work. So things like drafting a design doc, turning messy notes into like clear arguments, summarizing trade-offs, adapting communication for different audiences. So for me, AI kind of lowers that activation energy. So instead of spending an hour just getting to a workable starting point, I can get there much faster. Then I can spend more time kind of applying my judgment, refining the argument, getting alignment. And another kind of big shift has been around just context switching. So on my desktop right now, I have 6 or 7 coding agents sessions running they're open and running. And so each tied to kind of a different project I'm involved in. And they help me kind of research a topic, synthesize notes, review the ideas, create artifacts for collaboration. And so over the last 4 or 5 months, that has changed the shape of my work. I've been able to kind of stay involved in more projects than I normally could because AI helps me preserve the context, kind of re-enter projects faster, and then kind of turn my scattered thinking into something I can share with others. So for me, it has expanded the surface area of the projects I'm involved in, where I can provide more useful input, feedback, and direction without relying on my own memory or finding long stretches of uninterrupted focus time.
I've now got this picture of you with your 5 or 6 AI agents kind of like doing all the work in the background whilst you're here chatting to us. So thank you. And I hope they're not too distracting with everything that's going on. But just to kind of like pull on that thread a little bit more, your role, I think we've all got some quite different roles here, but in particular, what's your experience of how those gains are perhaps distributed around the people that you've been working with, or how have you seen them affecting different roles? Are they pretty evenly distributed? Are they concentrated at different levels of seniority or types of work? What's your experience, Maxime, there?
Yeah, so I think the AI gains are strongest when people kind of bring the right context, the right judgment, and verification to these AI tools. So for Staff Plus engineers, that changes kind of the center of gravity of the role. If code becomes cheaper to produce with AI, then the scarce thing becomes knowing what code should exist, what constraints matter, and how does it fit into the wider ecosystem. And so that means AI is most valuable in the kind of work where Staff Plus engineers are already spend a lot of their time. And so I think AI makes the Staff Plus role more important and shifts that role towards kind of shaping intent, designing verification loops, creating alignment across teams. So those are already like Staff Plus responsibilities, but AI makes that role even more important. And so I also think Staff Plus role is making sure that AI adoption does not stop at like people are just using the tools. It has to show up in the team's operating model, how people plan, ship, verify, and learn. And that is when you see kind of the true gains of AI, and that's where that productivity gains can start to stick.
I was actually reading a lot on this, and I would like to compare with experience that we were having in our teams, and maybe we're having a little bit different experience than what is the industry term. Definitely, what I see that it's not evenly distributed at all, and the biggest gains that we are getting is on seniors, managers, and followed by juniors. And this is both true in across devs and QA. Mid-career engineers that worked so hard to become those people who gained that experience that they're writing great code. They are a little bit stepping back. They feel that AI is threatening to their identity, I really love growing people. I see that this is a mission for dev leaders, And for me, this is how can I help them to get this new identity where they'll be not feeling threatened. So in this case, how we can train them to become managers, because basically, like why it's so easier for Staff Plus, for Maxime to orchestrate 6, like 10 agents in parallel, because they know how to delegate, they know how to set clear goals, they know how to review the code, not micromanage, how to do the retrospectives and provide the feedback back to this. So these are the skills that we are teaching for the mid-career engineers, for them to get the new identity. And definitely, when we are going more towards hiring, then in this case, we are looking for true product engineers. Coding is not enough. They need to be orchestrators and also understand the business and be able to solve the problems, not just writing the code.
I've definitely been hearing that a lot. I think the balance of the product thinking is going to be incredibly important in terms of people's development and things like that. But we're going to come on a little bit more to some of the human stuff. I'm really glad you called that out. I think it's very, very important. But one of the things that I know can really help people is to understand the measurement, the sort of the structure around these kind of topics to make them a little bit less ambiguous. So when you think about measuring the gains and measuring the impact on different ways of working and different facets of the business, how do you think about that, Anastasia?
Something that I'd like to start with is now measurement are becoming even more important than at any other time. We are going through the major change management, so that's why be able to measure, understand what to measure is super critical. And talking to the dev leaders who had that experience before or who are obtaining that experience urgently now, I think these are the teams that are showing the biggest improvements. For me, what to measure, I introduced this concept with 3 pillars. One is being this behavioral change, then system change and customer impact, and all of them are having certain measurements that you would be adopting, depending on the phase of your AI adoption. For example, for behavioral change, it could be initially, is there engagement that is happening? Is there adoption? Is there frequency of the use? But when you are in more Maxime's type of experience, are your agents able to run autonomously for a long time without much of the supervision, without making too much of mistakes? So there will be different type of measures on the behavioral change. For the system, I would rely on the DORA type of metrics, on space type of metrics. Here, super critical. In addition to the adoption, we need, as dev leaders, track developer satisfaction. Because in this world, when you're running tens of agents, it's so easy to get to burnout, and super easy, not because people are really trying to do as much as possible, just because that endorphin that you're getting from this short from the quick wins is just keep going, and now it's oh, it's already 18 hours without nonstop, easily. And yeah, the last is customer impact. Are we running more experiments? Are we shipping faster? All of those things. Do we see customer satisfaction improvements? These are the metrics that I would be looking at, and they're all important. We can't ignore just adoption. This is leading indicator that your system is changing, and the end goal is customer, of course.
And just as you started speaking, we had a question come in on the Zoom Q&A, which, again, just a reminder to everybody, you're very, very welcome to submit things there as well. I think you've perhaps answered quite a bit of it. So the question was, could you please name some specific metrics and value that are specific for AI and overall improvement and efficiency with using AI? But then there's a follow-up of, how are you able to report this up to the board and executive leadership to show how AI is able to improve products, collaboration, and ultimately success? So I wonder if there's anything else you just wanted to kind of build on with your previous answer, or any other points that could be useful to this person.
Yeah, on the metrics, again, it depends on where you are in adoption. So that's why initially it could be maybe like lines of code or acceptance rate, that kind of things. On the far spectrum, it could be, are your agents working efficiently, and taking into account the cost that will be coming up very soon as a problem. Your investment having the right level of ROI. In Dora, it's all clear space. Also, like just take those frameworks and apply. For customer impact, what I'll suggest is, especially talking to the board and exposing the business metrics. Look for the signals what are important for your company. Sometimes it could be, is your go-to-market faster? Then are you shipping faster? Do you have more experiments? Sometimes it could be, is your organization cost efficient? So get those questions that are important for the board, that are important for exec level, and try to translate the metrics, the system metrics that you have towards that. For us, we were sharing the productivity gains with the board, and something that I shared just January versus April, it's 2.3 across all the team. Of course, it's not equally distributed, but it's across the teams. So you can use this comparison before certain milestone and after certain milestone. In this case, there could be also some other things that are changing in parallel. Your process changes, or your tools introduction. So there could be a little bit of variance. Other way how you could measure is building on cohorts and comparing. You will have people who are in learning AI adoption, and you will have really those people who are going aggressive. They're going through the same organizational changes. So if there's significant number of people in your team, and you can derive from that, then potentially you can do the cohort analysis and compare one cohort versus another, and represent this as the data for your board.
Thank you. I think you've touched on some really interesting nuances there. One of the things that I'd just love to stick on for a minute longer is just, how do you separate those real genuine productivity gains from gains that maybe just shift the work elsewhere, so into review or debugging or rework? How do you kind of actually get down to the nitty-gritty of measuring the real gains?
I can take this question as well. I'm very passionate about.
Go for it. I know you love this stuff.
About the data. An analogy that I like to use is, now we are getting all these muscle cars that are 10 times faster, 100 times faster. Are we getting home sooner? And I think in most of areas, it's like, no. And then the question raised, why? Why is it's not that? And here, a little bit of bummer. There is no one size fits all. There is no one recommendation. Oh, it's because of this and this. But my recommendation is use this layered measurement, and this is why it measures. Without this, without the end-to-end visibility, you can say that my coding has improved to that. My test coverage have improved by that, but you'll be not tying this. Are you seeing the business outcomes? So having the layered measurement is super important. For us, some of the bottlenecks that we gain after this transformation is like, we have PR review bottleneck, we have requirement bottleneck, and this gives opportunity as us for organization to tune for the next things. So bottlenecks are not bad things, like, if you know about them, because this gives you an opportunity to really tune and get even more from what you have. And yeah, anyone else would like to add?
I want to add something to that. I feel that it's highly important to follow the work through as opposed to following stages. So some people say, oh, we had 2 times PRs, and then PRs have increased by 4 times or 5 times. However, incident rate has also increased. So we need to be able to follow the work through from inception to delivery, as well as what happens after. So if we're able to say we're shipping 10 times faster, however, the incident rate has stayed the same or even reduced, now we're sure that we haven't moved that work elsewhere. So if we follow the work through completely, we're able to tell if we're really having AI gains or the work just moved elsewhere.
Well, let's stay on that slight downer then. Avi, I'd love you to take us through maybe some of the pitfalls that you've seen, or maybe some of the gains that look great, but then ended up being quite fragile, and disappeared or something like that. Could you tell us a few stories about some things in the less good realms then?
Yeah. Okay, so I can speak to this in two contexts, in the context of the user and in the context of the usage. In the first, I'm seeing more and more developers become overly reliant on AI, such that they begin or they stop working their engineering muscles. For example, there's an incident, and the first thing the dev does is to take a copy of the stack trace, place it on Claude Code, and then return to say, Claude said the issue could be A, B, C, D. And you're wondering, with the amount of context you have, if you just took some more time and looked more closely, you would see that the issue couldn't be any of these things, and it's totally something else. So with more people outsourcing their thinking to AI, we're seeing skill atrophy, and that isn't good for any team at all. And that's why I agree with something Stasia said around mid-devs feeling like their job is gone, because most of what they knew was just to code. And now that AI is doing more of that, we're seeing that it does seem that they don't have much to actually bring to the table anymore. Now, in terms of usage, I would say that I've seen AI gains look fragile when we apply them to large code bases, especially where you need a lot of context to be able to generate good working code. And most of the time, the context lives either in an RFC somewhere or in someone's brain somewhere else. And it's difficult and very challenging to pull all of that together and give that to AI. So in those situations, you will find that in isolation, the code looks good, but then as part of a whole, it doesn't help anyone at all, and there's actually higher churn rate. So in areas where you need a lot of context, I'm seeing that we can't really find stable AI gains there unless we do the work of investing in providing that context.
Yeah, thank you. And I've had a question come in that oh, sorry, Anastasia, did you want to chip in?
Yes. If you talk about the context, something that is important for us to keep gaining this values is how we can learn from the past mistakes. So agents will be not repeating this over and over again. This is something that will be making us less fragile in the future. And another pitfall that I saw is people were getting to AI adoption, and then they stopped experimenting. That we already have AI adopted, we are good. Let's focus on our roadmap or whatever. Thing is that AI is changing so fast, and this is not just step function that you conquered and that's it. So what we need to do is keep having this build, measure, learn loop. Otherwise, we'll be losing our gains. And something that I personally is afraid of is that lots of tokens today, they're subsidized. Like, we are not paying the full price. Once the real prices will come, and I'm looking right now at yesterday's announcements from Claude Code that starting from June 15, paid Claude plans include monthly Claude Agent SDK credits. So this is beginning towards that. So that means that if we go in that route, indeed, we will be going there 100%. All the gains that we have with AI, with be able to work with parallel 10 of agents at the same time, we'll be just losing those. And for now, for us, I think what we need urgently do while we still on that subsidized, we need to see how we can use those tokens efficiently. But you can do this only after you scaled. So first we need to scale AI adoption, but after that optimize. And we have an amazing phase right now to get the biggest ROI from each token that we are getting.
Super important point, I think, on a number of different fronts. But as you say, the sustainability angle is going to be, I think, a real discussion point. Once this initial kind of revolution has happened, there's going to be, I think, another wave of evolution after that. Thank you. I wanted to go to a question from Vishal. Thank you for the question, which was, what have you done for your code bases to generate reliable code which follows the standards and has context of other code bases? And it feels like this is coming from a place of Vishal's possibly had a bit of a pain point. So Maxime, I'd love to throw that one over to you if possible. I wondered if you had any thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think you have to have in your repo the right instructions and markdown files about what your repo is about. There's also agents MD and skills MD, things that you can markdown files that can help define how to interact with the code base. And you definitely want to expose your architectural intent more explicitly, like your ADRs, reference implementations, things, and give those as MCP tools to the agent so that it's able to discover those as it needs to do that. And so I think that's really the context engineering aspects of doing that correctly. So you need to have those standards, those examples, easy to retrieve for the agent. And then you also need better verification, right? So whatever the agent produces, you also need to have the right quality checks and verification in place so that it's not, whatever it produces, you're blindly accepting.
I'd like to add something to that. I've encountered situations where we have different developers, they have their own agents, and all the agents have their own MD file and they're doing things their own way. And it's like, what's the standard here exactly? So I think it might also help as a team to come together and say, what are our standards? Put that in an MD file. What are our architectural decisions? If you have a file like that where you add the links based on the domains or the modules, and this should be Git, like you should be able to actually commit this to Git so that as it changes, everybody gets those changes. And then all the agents are working with one instruction as it regards the standards and where they should pull docs from. I think that has actually helped my team because we're at a point where everybody's agent is just doing what they want. And then you have to constantly be reviewing the code to say, oh no, this is not the standard. But once we were able to standardize that in one file that everybody then shares, things became much easier.
And talking about measurements, sorry, but
this
is that person. Something that will be very good across all your repositories. Have that kind of assessment as a score, like how we are trending. Are we improving on our instructions? Are they standardized? And this can be building a roadmap towards what do you need to invest next. So just having that visibility.
Well, we could probably stay here all day talking about challenges, difficulties, hearing stories from you folks, hearing stories from the folks watching. But I did want to return us to the topic or the title that we were going with for this session, which is how do we get the gains to stick? So we've heard about a few ways that we can actually improve adoption, we can improve some of our practices, but what are the really deliberate things that we can do to mitigate those potential issues or to make sure that we are actually actively working towards getting gains to stick? So Anastasia, I know you really care about this. Is there anything else that you'd like to add into the mix here?
Yes, absolutely. In order for gains to stick, we need to treat this not as a tool adoption or tool rollout. This is our biggest change management that we went through for a long time. This is our workflow and cultural change. So that's why setting the goals, setting the standards are super important. Adoption is just minor step here. And as a part of this transformation, growing people, growing developers, QA folks to become the product engineers. Then I think I mentioned this in one of the questions is how we can create that learning feedback loop. If something is not working or we are getting not the efficient results from the agentic workflows, how we can bring this back to you as a developer, have that. Then how we can bring this to the team through, for example, this Git versioning inside repository that Abby was talking about, and then actually to the agents themselves. So they will be reusing that information and that learnings together. And yeah, for me, again, measurement person here, love the data so much. We need to monitor our engineering organization at daily, weekly basis and see what are the trends, because something maybe was working great, but then some small portion have changed, and you have this butterfly effect where the quality have degraded, and you think that everything is great, everything is good, my velocity is amazing, and you're having this side effect. So measuring velocity, speed, quality, and please measure developer experience. Burnout is real thing that we need to take care of. And when you're looking through this data, then identify what are the new raising questions, new raising issues, and this is what will be helping the changes, the improvements that you have already today stick, and you will multiply, you will improve and improve and improve.
Let me add something to that. This might sound really funny, but there's something I do on my team, which is surfacing AI errors to the whole team. We kind of joke about it, but it helps to reinforce that learning that AI is not the driver. You are the driver and AI is the tool, and you shouldn't let AI be the driver because AI can actually make mistakes. So at the times where we see this, we just kind of surface it to the team and be like, AI just did this and this wrong. That just lets everyone know that, yes, even though AI is giving us these gains, we should actually still have that human in the loop such that we are overseeing the work and we don't get to the point where it's like everything hits the roof.
Yeah, and I like the distinction between vibe coding and kind of agentic engineering, because I think it gets to something important. So, but vibe coding can be useful. It helps people explore, prototype, get something out quickly. But if we want AI productivity gains to last, teams have to be moved towards more like a disciplined agentic engineering. To me, that means the agent is operating within a real engineering workflow. There's clear intent, there's curated context, there's explicit constraints, there's tests, boundaries, and reviews. And that requires more than just better prompts. It means teams need to have better specs, better instructions, better internal documentation, a lot of stuff we've been talking about. And we also need to make the systems, more legible for agents. So they might, means better API documentation, MCP servers, for the agents to inspect our environment better. And yeah, context engineering, matters a lot here. But has to be maintained like any other parts of our engineering systems. And the failure mode for me is not always that, AI generated code that fails immediately or is bad code. Often the code works today, but quietly it kind of raises the cost of every future change. So the team that makes the gain stick will not necessarily be the team with the most, tokens or the newest models. It's those that they will be the teams that have the strongest feedback loops and the most disciplined engineering practices around these AI assisted work.
Well, let's stick a little bit there on the more human side of things then. What kind of skills, Maxime, would you say are the ones that are going to become most valuable as AI improves, helping us to really kind of maximize those gains?
Yeah, I think as AI improves, I think the one of the most valuable human skills is understanding. So there's a line I like a lot, which is you can outsource some thinking to AI, but you can't outsource your understanding. And so AI can help draft the spec, it can explore the code base, it can generate options, it can write the test, it can propose a solution. But as the engineer, I still need to understand the problem deeply enough to know whether we are solving the right thing. And I need to understand the solution deeply enough to kind of explain why it might work, where it might fail, what the trade-offs, might be, and whether we can maintain it, right? And that becomes even more important as AI output gets more polished. And you see kind of the weaker AI answers are easy to reject, but a plausible, polished answer is more dangerous because it can look right while hiding kind of a bad assumption or a security issue or design choice that does not fit the system. So skills like judgment, taste, domain understanding become more important. And all those skills depend on us understanding, and what AI is proposing. And if I don't understand the problem, I can't give the agent good intent. If I don't understand the system, I can't provide good context. And if I don't understand the solution, I can't, reasonably approve it. So I would summarize it like AI can generate options, but engineers still own the understanding. And the more capable AI becomes, the more important it is that humans kind of stay accountable for what the system is actually doing and why.
AB, anything to add on that front?
Yeah, I'd say two things are very important now, and that's understanding things from first principle and architectural thinking. Because if you don't have the deep understanding, you can't actually critique AI's work or push back where necessary. So right now, it has become extremely important for developers, engineers everywhere to begin to understand things from first principle so that you can actually push back and critique work of AI.
I agree with all points from Maxime and Abby. Maybe one more thing that I'll add here is being understanding AI and AI literacy and know how to supervise AI efficiently. This is the skill that we're obtaining at very rapid pace right now. But this will be super useful combined with your human judgment, with ethics, with deep domain knowledge, with this system thinking. Yeah.
We've had a ton of questions, so thank you so much for everybody who's really been engaging with this. We're not going to get to them all, but I did just want to pull out one last one, which I think is related to this, of what ways have you found to avoid engineering skills atrophying? And I think my interpretation of that is maybe some of the more, dare I say, air quotes, traditional engineering skills. We've talked about the over-reliance on coding agents and things like that. But I'm guessing it also ties into getting left behind, not being up to date. So do any of you have any thoughts on how to keep skills relevant, how to keep them up to date, and how to do some deliberate practice around some of the things that we might lose along the way?
For me, maybe it will be keeping curiosity for dev leaders, as developers, as QA, and keep learning. This is one. Second is how we can understand better customers and their problems, what we are trying to solve, what's the best way to solve this. So again, writing code is cheap now. Solving problems is still very relevant. This will be number 2. And number 3, we still need to understand how system is working. We still need to understand what their architectural principles. So these are the things that for me will be top 3. There'll be definitely more other things towards that.
I can add something to that, which is the fact that you should try to form an opinion before you ask AI anything. So before you say, how can we architect a system that does A, B, and C? Try to architect it yourself first, and then you can compare, find gaps, and that way you are actively growing as opposed to just asking AI to do everything for you and then you just review. So this way you still be flexing the muscles and growing them.
I feel I was going to say you're absolutely right, and then ran the risk of sounding exactly like AI. So thank you for that. So I'm just going to kind of bring us to time in a sec. I think this time has absolutely flown by, so thank you for sharing everything that you have. But what I'd like to do is just go around the room really quickly, give you a chance to just offer any closing advice that you'd like anybody listening today to take away from this conversation. So Maxime, let's start with you.
I would echo what Anastasia was saying. I think, you have to measure quality, not just velocity. And it's easy to just count the commits and the PRs and feel good about, AI. But the harder and more kind of important question is, will the code base be healthier in 6 months from now? And so building visibility into the quality signals, looking at code duplication, look at code health, look at incidents, maintainability, look at, whether teams are actually able to change a system safely over time. And I think the team that wins with AI in the long run will be the teams that make the quality signals just as visible as the speed signals.
Fantastic. And Aby, how about you? Any closing wisdom?
I would say, as a developer, do everything that you can to make sure that your skills do not atrophy.
Lovely, short and sweet. And Anastasia.
This is super wise, Abby. Super wise. For me, we're going through the major transformation that we never went through previously. And as this is major change management, be able to build system, tune this, measure and learn and keep iterating and having this loop is super important. It was never that important as today. So that will be my recommendations, to have really gains that will stick, that will multiply, that will grow, and not have the major side effects on your company and your customers.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing. It's been great to hear some different perspectives. It's been great to hear how you've practically been attacking some of these topics and making them work for you. And thank you, as always, for sharing all of your thoughts, all of your wisdom with the audience today. What we're going to be doing is heading over now to the Lead Dev Slack, and we're going to be in the panel-q-and-a channel. So for all the folks, there's a few outstanding questions, some really, really good ones, some meaty ones. I'd love to have had time to discuss the mid-level devs one a bit more. I think that's a really fantastic conversation. If you want to continue the conversation, if you want to get the answers to your questions, please head over to Slack with us now to continue the discussion. And just a reminder, if you're not in there already, you can get to it through theleaddeveloper.slack.com. But thank you all so much for joining, panelists, everybody watching, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.